Today I'm going to be reviewing one of my all-time favorite RPGs, Phantasy Star IV, which was released for the Sega Genesis in 1993 in Japan and 1995 in North America. Phantasy Star IV is a classic JRPG game that has become a beloved title among RPG fans and has influenced many RPGs that have followed. Phantasy Star IV is certainly one of the best RPGs and, in my opinion, is the best RPG on the Sega Genesis and awesome enough to stand toe-to-toe with the greatest RPGs of all time. So let's dive into this review and talk about why this game is still worth playing today and what makes it stand out, as well as discuss the future of the series. I just recently did a full playthrough here on the channel of Phantasy Star IV on the Sega Genesis, and please like and subscribe for more RPG content. Let's go! Phantasy Star IV has a very unique combat system that makes it stand out from other RPGs of the time. It is turn-based, but players can combine their moves to create powerful combo attacks. Also, another feature that makes me scratch my head as to why more RPGs didn't follow in its footsteps is the ability to make macros, so that you can quickly have your party do commands and combinations with the click of a single button. The combat is also fast-paced and fluid, which keeps battles exciting and engaging. Phantasy Star IV also has a variety of weapons and armor to choose from, as you would expect from an RPG, and the party members' skills and abilities can be upgraded and customized as you level up and get stronger. As the story progresses, more and more different characters will come into your party at different intervals, keeping you on your toes with strategies and more combination options. Also, the game is not an extremely long RPG. This allows for the story to flow fast and for it to feel infinitely more replayable. The story of Phantasy Star IV is an epic sci-fi adventure that takes place in a vast and complex universe. The game's story is rich in lore and has many twists and turns that keep the player engaged from start to finish. Phantasy Star IV's themes also explore mature topics such as love, betrayal, and the meaning of life, which makes the story feel deeper than the typical RPG of the time. Phantasy Star IV doesn't require you to have played the previous 3 Phantasy Star RPGs. However, it wraps up the stories of the entire series in such a way that playing the previous entries enriches your understanding and the subtext of the story, but is completely optional. This is one of the greatest wrap-ups to an RPG series I've ever seen, and by the end, you will agree that Phantasy Star IV was and is a grand story that all RPG fans should experience. Overall, the game's story is one of its strongest aspects, and it keeps you engaged from start to finish. It's the pacing of the story that is so well done and brings you back to turn on your Sega Genesis to see what happens next, knowing that just around the corner of any point in the game is another twist or turn, always leaving you with questions to be answered all the way until the end. Phantasy Star IV has a cast of unique and well-developed characters that players will grow to care about throughout the game. Each character has their own motivations and backstory, and their personalities are distinct and memorable. The game's main character, Chaz, is a young hunter who sets out on a journey to save the world from an evil force. The game's other party members, including the intelligent Ren, the sassy Rika, add depth to the story and make the game's world feel alive. As I mentioned before, the story brings people in and out of the party as the story progresses, and you will grow to love each and every one of them. Each character lends itself to the overall plot in ways that each of them is needed and beloved by the story's end. Phantasy Star IV showed off some amazing visuals for the time, and in my opinion, it is one of the greatest showpieces for 16-bit technology, with stunning cutscenes at major story points that do a great job of showing the action of what is happening and the emotions of the characters, and it's presented in a graphic novel or comic style form. Beyond those cutscenes, Phantasy Star IV takes you to several different planets, each of them featuring their own unique style of terrain and monsters. The battle graphics are interesting with some flashy animations for special attacks and spells. It is obvious that Phantasy Star IV pushes the Sega Genesis to its max, and in my opinion, it's the best graphics any RPG has on the entire system, and in many ways, it's the best graphics on any 16-bit machine, including the Super Nintendo, or at least it goes toe-to-toe with the best. If you want a system pusher, Phantasy Star IV is a great place to find it. Phantasy Star IV features an amazing soundtrack as well that takes full advantage of the Sega Genesis' unique chipset. It's grungy, it's got that deep bass you love from Sega Genesis titles, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. It uses some tracks from previous Phantasy Star games to give you a sense of nostalgia if you played those, and it mixes the soundtracks to meet the demand of the story in perfect ways. This is the ultimate 16-bit soundtrack, and you'll likely be humming the tunes long after the adventure is over. The soundtrack features a mix of orchestral and electronic music with a focus on synthesizers and drums. The music is designed to enhance the game's atmosphere and create a sense of immersion for the player. Another one of the standout features of the game's sound design is its use of sound effects. Phantasy Star IV uses a wide range of sounds to convey the game's action and environment, including the sound of footsteps, rustling of leaves, the roar of monsters. Overall, the music and sound of Phantasy Star IV help to create a rich and immersive gaming experience. The soundtrack and sound effects work together to enhance the game's narrative and gameplay, making it a beloved classic among RPG fans. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the members of Napalm. They have strapped on their armor and are casting the spells of awesome by supporting this channel and keeping me full-time every month. Thank you so very much. And I think you are interested in becoming a member. You can do so by clicking join down below this video and pick a level that is right for you. And I would like to give a very special thank you to the Lords of Napalm, Bounty Code, Jared Woodhouse, Daimlos, Farthest Reach, Sparrow, Christopher Hensel, Random Rob, Zelik Lid, Rodniel Mom, Vander, Gallerang Moonsong, What's the Takeaway, Trips, Daniel Cordley. Thank you for your highest tier membership. Phantasy Star IV is a memorable RPG that wraps up the entire series without the need to play through them all. It's short and sweet, running between 15 to 25 hours in length, depending on your playstyle, and it doesn't waste any of your time. The next objective is always close by, and the story moves at a glorious pace. It's much like Chrono Trigger in its style of pacing, but it's unique enough to stand on its own with features that were downright revolutionary at the time. From the macro system to combinations of attacks to create powerful new effects, to the cutscenes to tell the story. Phantasy Star IV is absolutely worth playing for all RPG fans. It is easily available on many platforms as well. You can pick it up on Steam for $1 on the PC. You can play it on the Nintendo Switch on their online service plan. It's also available on many of the consoles in the Sega Genesis collection pack. I just played through the entire game here on the channel, and you can watch that adventure in its entirety from beginning to end. I found the difficulty to be perfect, with some epic boss battles that had me fully immersed. Phantasy Star IV is one of the greatest RPGs ever made, and I think all RPG fans need to check it out and play through it. And if it's been long enough that you don't remember it very well, now is a great time to dive in and experience one of the greatest RPGs Sega ever made. It's a shame that Phantasy Star IV was the final entry. Even though it wraps up the story of the Algo system extremely well, I wish every day that Sega would get a single-player RPG series going again in this style, with improved graphics, but without disturbing the nature of what made the Phantasy Star series unique. Although Sega continues on with the Phantasy Star IP by way of the Phantasy Star Online series, there is a major gap, in my opinion, in what those games deliver as compared to the art style and stories that were told in the RPG series of Phantasy Star single-player adventures. I would love for a day to come that Sega announces a new single-player grand RPG for this series, and I hope that one day this comes true. Now it's time for you to tell me what you think of the Phantasy Star series or Phantasy Star IV in general. I want to hear your stories of playing Phantasy Star IV, what you think about it, so head down to the comments if you haven't already and tell me about it. I love reading the comments and hearing what you think, and if you haven't already, please hit that like button like it owes you money, and please subscribe for more MMO and RPG content, because that's what we do here all day, every day. And until next time, my friends, God bless and happy gaming.